Greetings, Father Joe here, your friendly neighborhood pastor, coming to you from St. Patrick's Church in lovely Highland Mills, New York. Actually, I'm coming to you today from the rectory because they're doing the floors in our school building. Today is the memorial of St. John Neumann, not to be confused with St. John Henry Neumann. John Henry Neumann was an English cardinal. John Neumann was a bishop here in the United States. One is pronounced Newman, English, Neumann, German descent. Our readings today, I think they kind of show us that doctrine is our friend, or dogma is our friend. So very often people they say, I'm spiritual, or I love God, and I don't, dogma, doctrine, all that stuff it's not for me. Well, let's look at our readings today and yesterday and Monday. If we start off with today's reading, yesterday we had the multiplication of the loaves. And today, Jesus sends the apostles out in the boat, and in the middle of the night, he comes walking on the water. And St. Mark says that they were completely astounded. And why were they completely astounded? He says they had not understood the incident of the loaves. On the contrary, their hearts were hardened. If the apostles had understood the significance of Jesus multiplying the loaves, they would have understood that he could walk on the water. In the Bible, only God walks on the water. In Genesis, and then I think it's Habakkuk, it's in one of the prophets, the Spirit of God moves across the water. Moses didn't walk on the water. Elijah didn't walk on the water. Elisha didn't walk on the water. They parted the water and they walked through on dry ground. Nobody walked on the water. Jesus walks on the water, thus showing his divinity. And if the disciples had understood the significance of the multiplication of the loaves, they would not have been astounded. In Matthew's version of this, Peter says, if it really is you, Lord, tell me to get out of the boat and walk on the water. That's really something. Peter wants to be really clear. If you are God, you have the authority, you have the power to tell me to get out of the boat and walk on the water. And he starts walking on the water. So I guess you could say two people walk on the water, God and St. Peter. But it's important that we understand the significance of things, because if we don't, then our hearts can be hardened. Now, in the first letter of St. John, chapter 4, that we've been reading from, we are also reading about something else that can harden our heart, and that is a lack of love. And so in our reading today, it begins, "Beloved, if God so loved us, we also must love each other. If we love one another, God remains in us, and his love is brought to perfection in us." It sounds like you don't need any doctrine. You might say, Father, you're undercutting your own argument here. Doctrine, dogma is your friend, and it helps us to have an open heart, to get rid of our hardened heart. Not alone, it has to be accompanied by love. But then we come to the next thing. It says, whoever acknowledges that Jesus is the Son of God, God remains in him and he in God. And this is, and we have come to know and to believe the love of God, the love God has for us. Please note, it's not just that we love, but we love God with the same love that God has for us. And And we know this if we understand who Jesus is. That's important. Today, we're saying that we need to acknowledge that Jesus is the Son of God. If you go back to Monday, on Monday in the reading, St. John says, and his commandment is this, that we should believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and we should love one another just as he commanded us. So this is a commandment for following God. And if you skip down a few verses, it says, this is how you can know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that acknowledges Jesus Christ come in the flesh belongs to God. So in other words, it's not just loving one another, it's loving God, and it's acknowledging who Jesus is. Jesus is the Son of God. In other words, he has a divine nature, but he has also come in the flesh, and so he has a human nature. This is dogma. This is doctrine. It's who Jesus is. And when we have this knowledge, when we choose, when we make a choice to believe, then our hearts are opened and this much greater love becomes possible because we understand, all right? In this way, the love of God has been revealed to us. That God sent his only begotten Son into the world so that we might have life through him. That life is not human life, it's divine life. God's plan for you is that you would share in the divinity of Christ, not losing your human nature, but partaking of the divine nature of Jesus Christ. That happens when we get baptized. This is doctrine, this is dogma, and it is your friend. When I was in the seminary, I got ready for one of my dogma classes. We were reading a German theologian, and I expected this to be really dry stuff. I thought, oh my gosh, sandpaper would be better than this. But as we started reading, I was completely blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like love letters from my lover telling me, that I want to share who I am with you. And so remember, dogma and doctrine, if we take it without love, then yes, it is dry as sandpaper. But if we take love without dogma or doctrine, then we don't know who we love. Then it's like a puddle. It may be 5 feet wide, but it's 2 inches deep. God wants to reveal to us who he is so that we can share the depths of his love. So again, I'm knocking you over the head with this today. Dogma and doctrine are your friends. They help us to love God more. They help us, by the way, to love everybody else more. If we know who God is, we understand who people are because they're made in his image and likeness. Again, dogma is your friend. Don't give up on learning about dogma and doctrine. God bless you.